Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to Russ Can Fly, FAA Ramp Check. Let's talk about it. Okay, so I've talked about this with my members before. It was a shorter video, and I thought, you know what? I need to talk more extensively amongst the entire Russ Can Fly population about this issue, because you know, I don't think this is something that we really think about too much, and I think all pilots, whether you're renting aircraft or you own aircraft, need to be thinking about this issue. Now, this is no knock on the FAA. I don't have any problems with them at all. And in fact, I don't even have a problem with people coming out and doing their job, you know, checking to make sure people are credentialed. It is for our safety and the safety of others that they do these things. So don't see this as a knock on, you know, what the FAA does. There are regulations that they are making sure that we're following, and I do not have a problem with that. So just let me put that out there. But one of the things that's definitely clear to me is that, you know, I don't think we really think through, like, what are all of the components? And it's funny, I actually pulled some of the orders that govern checklists that FAA inspectors would use if they come out and do a ramp check. Now, I know you think about all of the typical things that they'll be looking for, but there were some interesting things that I saw on this checklist in the order that I thought that we would talk about. And again, yes, I know we always want to do the flight videos because those are the things that are most exciting, and I love flying, but these are some of the other components of being an aviator or a pilot that I think is interesting and necessary to talk about. So we're going to do just that. Okay, let's start from the beginning. All right, so you come out, you're getting ready to do your flight, and young woman, young man comes up with you to you. They've got like a little notepad in their hand. They've got their hat and their whatever they look like when they do it. And they say, hey, so we're here, we're the FAA. We're here to check, do a ramp check. And of course, you already know that what you're supposed to have is what? Your pilot's license or student pilot certificate, a government ID with a picture on it, and a current medical. All right, so you're thinking, all right, I know I have to have those things. Done, not a problem. But what's really interesting is that seems simple, but no, not that simple. So I want you to understand, let's actually take a look at this order. So 8900.654, current as of March 31st, 2023. Here's what they're going to be looking for specifically as it relates to you. One, so this number 6 is going to be A, inspect airman documents. Number 1, inspect airman certificates to determine appropriate ratings and limitations for the type of operations they are conducting. I'm going to come back to that because that is key. And I'm just going to foreshadow that you're coming out to fly and somebody's with you. That is going to be part of the ramp check. And that's why that aspect of the inspection is important. But let's continue. They're also going to be looking at your medical certificates to determine, you know, that they are current, appropriate class, all of that kind of stuff. We already talked about that. And then 3, verify that the pilot has a photo identification that has the person's physical possession or is readily accessible in the aircraft. And then 4, this is where it got really interesting. If available, and we'll come back to that, if available, examine pilot logbooks or other reliable records to determine recency of experience and qualifications, such as student pilot endorsements, flight review. See, that's why this is what kind of kicked all of this off, because when I did my flight review, and I digress, I'm sorry, but when I did my flight review, I had to sign this like little document. Well, I didn't have to sign it, but it was part of like the ground school, and I saw down on there, this is done in accordance to forms, you know, order 89 blah 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 blah, 40 CFR port section blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a lot of, that's like kind of serious. And so that's what made me think about it. But let's go back. So student pilot endorsement, flight review, instrument proficiency check, or flight experience. So yeah, if your logbook is available, they will ask for it, and you want to make sure, because again, you know, when you're thinking of a ramp check, you're just thinking, oh, okay, you know, as long as I've got my certificate on me, both medical and pilot or student, and you know, my driver's license, I'm good. Yeah, but there's gonna be some more questions, and one of the questions they may ask you is about your logbook. And you know, these are the types of things that they're gonna be looking for. And so that's why you don't want to be phoning this in on, you know, whether or not you've got another rating or you've done a flight review. If you're not current along those lines and you're just kind of like phoning it in, that could end up being a little bit of a situation for you, and you just don't want to get caught up. So do know that they may be asking for your logbook is available. It's in here. The other thing I found fascinating about that aspect of the ramp check is not only the logbook, but say somebody is with you, all right, and they say, hey, so what is the flight operation today? And you just say, oh, I'm taking my friend up. We're just gonna go do a, you know, quick $100 hamburger run. And I'm currently at Wingsfield, so I'm just gonna fly out to Lancaster. We're gonna get the $100 hamburger and come back. Okay, now remember, we're at this logbook thing, and they're flipping through the pages, and they just happen to notice that I have not done my 3 takeoffs and landings to a full stop in the previous 90 days. That could be an issue. So you see where I'm going? This, I mean, it's more than just show the documents, okay, check, check, check. No, they've got a whole checklist. And I mean, I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. If you haven't had the opportunity to see what this checklist is, and you're not aware of some of the other things that they're gonna be asking you, I say you do that. You will be doing yourself a favor, because I was surprised to see how much more involved it was than I had originally thought. I mean, especially just the fact that, you know, yeah, they're going to be looking at the flight operation. So they see a passenger there, and, you know, they're going to be asking those types of questions. And one of the things that they're going to want to see, because I do have my logbook available, and I'm not going to be a jerk about it. You know, it's available. I'm going to share it. All of my endorsements and stuff are up to date, you know. And so my thing is, the more, you know, I am cooperating and I've got my house in order and I'm not trying to be cute, the faster we can kind of get done with this. Because again, my position is this person, she or he, are just doing their job just to make sure that I'm legal and that I'm safe. But here's where it gets really interesting. Hadn't thought about this, and this was really kind of fascinating. Let's talk about it. Now, I was talking about that provision. So it was number 6, you know, inspect airman documents. That was A, and then A has 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then there's B, inspect aircraft and documents, and it talks about which order they're supposed to utilize and whatnot. Now, here's where it gets interesting. All right. So we know that in order to inspect the aircraft documents, come on, Bug, watch out, Bug. Sorry about that. So in order to inspect the aircraft documents, what are they going to be looking for? They're going to be looking for the usual suspects, of course. The airplane registration, which should be seen, the airworthiness certificate, and then of course, you know, if you're talking about international operations, it may be like radio station licenses and all that kind of stuff. So those are the usual suspects, and the weight and balance information, which should be in the POH, as we always say, the pilot's operating handbook. Okay, cool. So check. But here's where it gets interesting, and here where it can get a little dicey. This is getting a little bit different than what I anticipated, and so it's almost like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Let me call a friend. As an aside, that's why I talk about being a member of the AOPA, because that's going to be an important resource for you to use in the event that you find this situation happening to you. Because, yeah, you might want to make this phone call. But there was this thing in there where they talked about inspecting the aircraft. Now, again, I don't own my own aircraft, so I don't know much about inspection plates and opening them up and all of that kind of stuff. So, but seemed to be this hint of, you know, some of that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, now that would be interesting if they start pulling out tools and wanting to open up inspection plates. That's when I might want to phone a friend, maybe kind of shut this down. Of course, they want to turn on things and make sure avionics are operating or whatever. Even that can get to be interesting. And again, this is a little out of my depth because I don't own an aircraft. My expectation under those circumstances would be that they would just be wanting to look for that paperwork, weight and balance, registrations, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I can foresee a situation where you're in a hangar and they ask you to turn on the lights and the beacon doesn't turn on, and they're really kind of interested in, okay, well, if I don't see the, one of the, strobes not working properly, or your taxi landing light doesn't come on, I can see where that might draw additional interest in what else is going on with the airworthiness of this aircraft. But then that's where it could get a little interesting. So that's why I'm raising this issue and talking about this in this video. And again, I am no expert. I am not an aviation attorney, and I don't know any of that kind of stuff. What I am suggesting is that as aviators, as pilots, that we kind of understand what it is that we're supposed to do and have and be responsible for, all that good stuff. So we can be mindful that when we're jumping in these aircraft and we're going up there, that we're safe, we're not a danger to ourselves or anybody who's on the ground, and we are playing by all of the regulatory requirements. They're here to keep people safe, to make sure that the system works. And so, I have no problem with any of that, but you do need to understand, what your rights are, and ways that you can protect yourself from maybe somebody who's a little overzealous, or an inspection or a review that's going into direction that you may not be completely understanding or be uncomfortable with, and what you can do to try to get on the same page with the FAA person so that it's not an adversarial situation. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of put this out there, and again, I've glossed over a lot because I don't want to be spending a lot of time. The bottom line is this: I want all of you to be thinking about, what this potentially looks like, to not be taking it lightly, that it is an important aspect of keeping us all safe. And again, of course, it's not the sexy flying. I'd love to be getting in one of Wing's SR-22 turbos and blasting through the air, as opposed to standing here in the hot sun melting and holding this camera up. But this is also part of the journey, and as I contemplate owning my own aircraft, these are some of the things that I'm really being mindful of, to really dial into these requirements and what can happen and what the checklist looks like, in the event that I'm out on a flight and I got my own aircraft. What are the things that I should be making sure are in my aircraft, some of the things that I'm responsible for, so that the whole thing just goes smoothly. I'm sure that everybody just wants this to work. The person is coming out to do the inspection is not trying to trip me up or trip us up or make our lives miserable or any of that kind of stuff. Literally, they're just doing their jobs. But we have to be mindful of what their jobs really entail so that we're prepared. So that way it's just efficient. We can get it done and get on with our $100 hamburger flight. So that's it. Thank you for indulging me. I know that this isn't, so don't take this as like legal advice or instruction or anything like that. Look at these documents yourself. And as I've told you before, you really would be doing yourself a favor if you become a member of the AOPA, because they have resources to kind of help you walk through some of this stuff. Especially if you look at the checklist and there's some things on there that you don't understand, or there's some legalese, or heaven forbid you find yourself in this situation and that person is standing there and you're trying to figure out how best to navigate this inspection. There are resources that are available to you. And so it behooves you to avail yourself of those resources. All right? So yours in aviation, I'm just trying to do my small part to help us fellow pilots and aviators and aviation enthusiasts just be aware of the landscape. All right? We'll get back to flying, but this is important too. All right. See you later. Russ can fly. I'm out. Hey.